Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning, happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Kent Mulgat.
And we're joined by Krista Loughton. You put together this film, Us and Them, right? And this film seems to be succeeding at just breaking through that barrier so that we can realize that these people who are occupying the streets and the corners of the bushes are real people. Was that the purpose?
Absolutely, to humanize the homeless population for certain. I felt like there was a disconnect as I spent time at the local drop-in center in the city where I'm from, Victoria, BC. I felt there was a major disconnect, in my opinion, between the staff and the people that work there that understand to get to know the people and the general population.
Right.
There's a misunderstanding about what's required there to actually fix the situation, improve the situation, or heal the situation. So I thought that by making this film, that could be a bridge between that world and the world of the general population.
A couple of things sort of jumped out at me. There was this person, Donelda.
Donelda.
At first, she just kind of looks like the classic middle-aged homeless person that we don't know much about. And I didn't get fully emotionally engaged with her until you flash up the pictures of her former life. And that's when you go, wow, that looks just like you and me, right? And it's, so, yeah.
Her before and afters are like, there's audible gasps in audiences when those images come up on screen, because she looks like a completely different person.
So together and...
Yeah, but that's her story is a Canadian tragedy. Like, she fell through the cracks of the system in Canada. She literally was barred from all the shelters in town. So she slept outside for probably 6 to 8 years. Like, literally nowhere to go. She would wander the streets at night, afraid of getting beaten up and robbed because of her stature. She was very small, under 5 feet tall, under 100 pounds. And she couldn't just like curl up somewhere and sleep and feel safe. She slept in parkade stairwells, but mostly she would just walk the streets and then sleep in the drop-in centers during the day and use drugs to numb her pain.
Another character, Stan, who we meet right at the beginning, and then what was it like for you? Because later in this movie, we realize that Stan's gone.
I got very attached to all 4 characters in the film. Like, I wouldn't even really refer to them as characters, like participants, more like,
right.
like, you know, family members almost. Like, it was at that, well, with Karen and Eddie for sure. We refer to each other as brother and sister all the time. Yeah, it was really difficult. That was really difficult. And I also felt like I was trying to fix them, and I couldn't. And then when he passed away, yeah, it was incredibly sad.
So when people see this film, does it move things forward when you show it to people who are on the reins of power? Do you see, does a light go on? Does action stem from it?
I think so. I mean, the biggest screening we've done so far was on Parliament Hill. The Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, Jean-Yves Duclos, hosted a screening during the National Poverty Reduction Conference this time last year. And by the way, that conference was the first one that had happened in Canada in 10 years. So under the Conservative government, there was no poverty reduction conference at the federal level, or talk or strategy or anything. And through that, the film screened, and then there was discussion, so there was key people that were coming up with how they're going to reduce poverty in Canada. And the film apparently really influenced that group of people. And I actually was at the conference on the second day, and people kept telling me that. So it has had an impact, I think, at the federal level, I know, and at the municipal level too, because I've traveled across the country, probably more than about 75 screenings in towns and cities across Canada, and it's the same thing with city councils and town councils and many, many United Ways that have hosted screenings. So I think it has had an impact. So that, as I was saying about at the federal level, the poverty reduction strategy came out, and it certainly influenced that. But we have to look at that. We definitely have to look at poverty. Poverty is what's creating this.
Right now, so it's such good timing. I guess you're aware that this community's gone through a long process. This Journey Home Task Force, as it's been called, is kind of finished its work, and it's now kind of action time, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of energy attached to this issue right now, and there's some money. So it must feel good to be able to have something like this to show, to make sure that people don't take their foot off the gas pedal.
Well, exactly, and that's what you want. You want to educate people, because most people don't have time to think about it. Let's be honest, we're all busy, running around, living our lives, trying to make a living, survive ourselves. We don't, you drive by it and you're like, oh, I don't want to look at that. Like that little street that I just drove past where businesses are struggling, and so the businesses are hurting, the people are hurting. We've got this situation. We need to fix this, but most people don't have time to really think. They're just like, oh, figure it out. But in this classic, it's just been like ingrained, I think, in the psyche of many people in North America. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just get a damn job and figure it out. You use drugs, so this is your fault. Like that kind of thinking actually pushes us in the dead opposite direction that we need to go in order to fix the situation.
That is still out there.
100%.
Big time.
100%. It was drilled into us with the war on drugs. You war on anything, any big issue like that, you're just going to make more of it. I know that sounds, it's a large statement, but the war on drugs didn't work. It failed. I just saw a meme the other day that made me laugh. The war on drugs is over and drugs won. Right? And then also the Just Say No campaign. Just say no to drugs. Like, you talk to any neuroscientist or psychologist, and that's just, you don't just say no to drugs. It's not how that works. So there's not enough intellect or intelligence or thought that has gone behind these stereotypes that we've created.
One sticking point we always seem to get to when they go to implement these ideas as to how we can start housing these people, the experts in the field usually will want at least some of the facilities, if not most of them, to be wet facilities, because you need to get the roof over their head first before you start dealing with addictions. And there's always pushback there, because no one wants to live next door to a place where people are coming and going and doing their drugs. So how do you push that one across the line?
Well, I think that people, there's a lot of fear, and I think NIMBYism, like not in my backyard, it's extremely fear-based. And actually, once you get people inside, you know what? They're going to do their drugs inside if they're doing them. They're not going to be, it's better, because they're not going to be sitting in the neighborhood just shooting up in public because they have nowhere else to go.
Right.
They're going to, and also, it's a lot of those buildings, like the Housing First buildings, it's supportive housing, so there is help there for people, and help for people to get their lives back on track, which is what you want, right? And sometimes not everybody's going to, some people are going to cold turkey, some people are going to wean off, some people are going to lessen their use. We're all different. We're all going to handle things differently, as we all would in those situations. So, there's the arguments for, you're always going to have NIMBYism. I think actually that's where us and them could really play a major role, is in situations just like that, where the town council or the local service provider could invite the whole community to watch a screening and then talk about the issues, right?
So some 800 people are going to see this film at the Kelowna
there's a
Community
wait
Theatre.
list.
And there's a wait list. So
I can't even believe it. That's the biggest show.
You're amazing.
It's the most people at a show, the largest You're amazing. Why am I amazing?
Well,
God.
well, it's such a great film, and it's so timely. But so for those people that go and see it, and I'm sure they will be moved by it, what do they do? Not every one of them is, one of the community's leaders, but they see it, they're moved by it. What do they do?
Talk about it when you hear people talking about the issues in sort of a old way, let's just put it, like in a sort of a non-compassionate, this is your fault, blaming, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, just say no kind of way. Talk to people about it. Get other people to watch the film. Be nice to those guys that you're walking past with their shopping carts, and they're like, just even smile, acknowledge, say hello, because that's why I named the film Us and Them, is because all of my four, they all felt like they didn't belong in society when they were on the street. There was this world, and it was all going around, but they weren't part of it. They were completely disconnected from it. And the hundreds of other homeless people that I spoke to over the 10 years that I made that film all felt the same way. It's that if you haven't lived this, you're like, from their perspective, they're the us, right?
See, this is, you're turning my world upside down here.
They don't feel like they belong.
I thought it was us and them, but it's us and them.
Well,
it's both.
It's wherever you sit.
Yeah.
But you know what? We could look at a country like India and the caste system and just be totally appalled that they have an untouchable class. Well, we have it right here. So,
can we change that?
Yeah, just be nice, be compassionate, get involved where you can get involved, donate to your local service providers, your United Way, talk to your town council. The way that housing and the supports can get into places when the municipal governments, the provincial governments, and the federal governments work together. Money has to come from all three levels of government, or all three types of government, Indigenous governments. All of it has to come together in order to get the housing built or repurposed, or whatever, buy an old, or I've seen a whole bunch of different kinds of models where like those 3-story 70s apartment buildings where there's an organization in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, that rented the whole building and repurposed it for their needs. It's called Homeward Bound, and created a housing first program running out of there that's incredibly successful.
Right. It always seems to me that it matters less exactly what you do, but for God's sakes, do stuff. Get some housing, try stuff. Try, fail, succeed, but do stuff.
And every community is going to do it a little bit differently. What works in Toronto and doesn't work in Toronto is going to be different here.
Right.
It's going to be different in different places. So do what you can, get creative, and find solutions. And there's all sorts of people. I've toured across this entire country. There are hundreds of people in every city that are dedicated to solving this issue.
Right.
Get involved.
All right.
Get involved.
I think
ask questions. Just volunteer.
It must be so cool for you. You get to watch 800 people watching your film. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah.
You're going to talk to some of the people?
Oh, of course. I'll talk at the event. I'll speak at the event.
And people can come up to you and say, wow, and discuss the issue. And
for sure, of course, yeah.
Right, well,
I want to take a picture. I want to see 800 people.
Yeah.
In one frame,
All watching your work.
My work and other people's work
yes.
too. The film was it was written and directed by myself and a woman named Jennifer Abbott, who's the co-director and editor of The Corporation, which is often billed as one of the most highly grossing documentaries in Canadian history. So I had some.
You had a little bit of help. Just a little bit.
I had some help, yes.
No, but I want to thank you for two things. One, for making this film. Two, for coming in here to tell us about it.
Okay, thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.